funny.
I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Schmack-a-macabre, it is time for the only news that matters. And being in Van Halen wasn't all fun and games. Despite their fame, tensions bubbled beneath the surface, especially between Eddie Van Halen and frontman David Lee Roth. Eddie was known for his laid-back nature, but Roth had strict rules, often clashing with that. These rules created friction that sometimes exploded into heated arguments. As much as the band thrived on stage, behind the scenes, Eddie struggled with Roth's demands. It wasn't always smooth sailing, even for the rock legend. Even though Eddie Van Halen was the band's namesake, he wasn't always the one making the big decision. In the early years, lead singer David Lee Roth often called the shots. The power dynamic led to constant tension and clashing egos. Roth's control sparked disagreement that couldn't always be ignored. While the friction sometimes resulted in incredible music, sometimes it always resulted in incredible music. It wasn't a recipe for long-term harmony. The battles behind the scenes were bound to unravel. By 1981, Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth's relationship was nearly at its breaking point. During the production of Fair Warning, Roth pushed for radio-friendly hits while Eddie carved a darker, more experimental sound. The constant disagreement took a toll on both the music and the band. Fair Warning lacked the cohesive of the early albums. What the hell are you talking about, news article? Marking the beginning of Roth's eventual exit. But, Roth left in 1985. But the conflict stayed with Eddie. The stress even impacted his health, leading to an ulcer during the turbulent period. Alright, before I keep reading, I gotta say, Fair Warning rules. To me, it's and most people out there consider it the greatest Van Halen album. I think what this article is trying to say here is that Fair Warning sold the least. Back then, even, through the Hagar years, Fair Warning did not sell as well as those Hagar albums, which goes to show you, album sales don't really matter. But they matter more than number one albums. But let's keep reading. Eddie Van Halen reflected on the tough times during Fair Warning in an interview with Steve Rosen. He recalls how the tension between him and David Lee Roth escalated during that era. Roth imposed strict rules, including banning wives from the tour bus. Eddie remembers Roth telling him, "Tell your old lady no wives on the bus," which he found frustrating. Looking back, Eddie couldn't believe he tolerated it. Those rules only fueled the growing tension between him and Roth, making things even harder for the band. Roth's control over the band wasn't easy for Eddie Van Halen to accept. It was no shock when they finally parted ways in 1985. The conflict peaked during Fair Warning, with both Roth and Van Halen struggling to have their voices heard. The tension proved too much to handle. When Sammy Hagar replaced Roth, things shifted for the worse. When it's unclear how much things relaxed for Eddie, the divide between fans showed that Roth's presence had a significant impact on the band's songwriting. That's right, and that's what some people don't seem to understand out there. You cannot compare Van Halen to Vangina. I'm sorry, it's two complete different bands. It's like trying to tell somebody, you gotta like U2 if you're a Ramones fan. Oh, but Eddie Van Halen is still, there. Eddie Van Halen to me is the greatest guitar player ever, but what he did in Vangina wasn't groundbreaking anymore. It was just whatever. It's Eddie Van Halen, but it wasn't as powerful as the Dave stuff. Now, I can understand if people like the Vangina stuff, that's fine. But to say, no, it's Eddie Van Halen, it's got to be good, you're a sheep. You know? You're a complete sheep. I think Eddie Van Halen's the greatest guitar player ever. But I'm sorry, I can't say I like the music he did with Sammy Hagar or Gary Sharon. I thought it was piss poor. I think that shift after Dave, what happened was Eddie was happy. No more Dave anymore. Dave's a pain in the ass. It's true. So Eddie was happy and was all for doing whatever he wanted to do, like Dreams, you know, and those songs like that. You know, you got When It's Love. That shit wouldn't have flown with David Lee Roth. But, you know, everybody loved that Vangina stuff when it was new. Doesn't seem like a lot of people are really behind Vangina, as much as a lot of you Vangina fans might think. If you go to Spotify and type in top 10 Van Halen songs that the Spotify people are listening to, Vangina only has 2 songs in the top 10 and they're low on the list. The lowest is Dance the Night Away. But then, Can't Stop Loving You, I didn't even think that was a hit. You know, that one's at number 9. Eruption is at number 8. And then at number 7, Why Can't This Be Love? Now, I can understand that being one of the big hits of the Vangina era. But the rest is Dave stuff. You really got me. Ain't Talking About Love. Hot for Teacher. Running with the Devil. Panama. And Jump. So, what's that you guys keep saying, Vangina fans? Yeah, well, they never had a number 1 album with Dave. Does that really matter in the long run? And, may I add, did they ever have a number 1 song in Vangina? No, they never had a number 1 song. But they did have one number 1 song with Dave. Jump was a number 1 single. But you never hear the Vangina defenders talk about that. And I want to take a moment now to talk about a great man, an awesome man, Mr. Ray Daniels, who also managed Rush. Well, he became Vangina's manager after their other manager died, Ed Leafler or something like that. And Sammy has gone on the record to say it's because of Ray Daniels Vangina broke up. That makes Ray Daniel my hero. It just goes to prove not all heroes wear a cape. Sure, he's responsible of getting Gary Sharon and Van Halen, but that was a very small price to pay for the demise of Vangina. It had to happen. You know, I just hated it. So yeah, Dave was a dick, and because of that tension was the amazing Six-Pack album. They all ruled. Van Halen, Fair Warning, is so good. It's so amazing. And to think maybe it was because Eddie had his way finally. But man, some brilliant lyrics and great singing from David Lee Roth. Hear about it later. David Lee Roth can't sing. Sammy Hagar's a better singer. Sammy Hagar sucks. His voice sucks. I like a good natural fucking voice with attitude. Hear about it later. Mean Street, Unchained, One Foot Out the Door. Diamond Dave rules, and Sammy Hagar sucks. Plain and simple. At the end of the day, everything turned out alright. Vangina is now looked back upon as dated 80s music, and classic Van Halen will always be remembered what they are. One of the most kick-ass, killer bands that ever existed. From the greatest live band ever to the worst live band ever with Vangina. That's what I think. What do you think? Leave it in the comments below. Even you Vangina fans, be respectful. I let everybody speak their mind. I don't delete anybody. Unless you're disrespectful. Then I gotta send you into the cornfield. Twilight Zone style. So thank you everybody for watching The Only News That Matters. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Ring that little notification bell. And like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty. Listen to Van Halen with David Lee Roth and smack 'em a gob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.
Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain, for we've received orders for to sail back to Boston, and so never more shall we see you again.